Okay, so Taddeo thinks that tech breakthroughs, that's one thing, one dimension of the information revolution. But she says there's another. It also changes not just the things we talked about in the last video, but also it changes how we think about ourselves, how we interact with each other and with the environment, and how we understand such interactions. So, used to be that there was kind of a dominant view where everything's just made of atoms, everything's physical, and that's just how we thought about the world, how we think about the world, at least in some people, a majority of people maybe. But now, she says, we think there's also this non-physical stuff. We think about websites, programs, actions like liking a post on social media, and the kinds of interactions that we have, arguing, chatting on social media. So we went from thinking it's all just physical, all just atoms in the void, to now there's this other kind of thing that seems different, doesn't seem quite as physical according to her. Reality, she says, now includes both physical and non-physical objects. And this shift to the non-physical domain, she says, affects how war is waged. First of all, it affects communication. That's one example. It's always been important in war, people talking to each other and gathering information. But now we're able to have constantly updated maps, constantly see the terrain, see what the enemy is doing, see what we're doing and how it's happening in real time, get constant info on stream of info on tactics and strategy, and that changes the nature of war. Another example she discusses is distributed denial of service attacks. She says, look, these kinds of attacks, they cause server congestion to networks that are targeted, make it impossible for the victim to do work or provide other services, and that's just a new, different kind of attack. She gives some examples about in 2007, Estonia's institutional website, Burma's internet during their 2010 elections. All of those were ways of affecting and attacking some different groups that are new. And she notes, as others have noted, that this can be performed independently of state actors. Non-state groups can do this. Non-state individuals can do this. She talks about robotic weapons, semi-autonomous, where it's like partly led by a pilot somewhere in a remote building versus but still AI has a role to play, versus fully autonomous where AI is just doing it all. That changes how war happens. That changes things. And then she asks the question, does this transformation shape the concept of war and how we think about war? Information warfare, you might think, is different because it allows for continuous attacks in a way that traditional war didn't. Or maybe traditional war did, but it didn't allow it for it on the same scale. You can have, now you can have people, soldiers fighting, you can have robots fighting, you can have people constantly working to attack the servers of your opponents. And so you might think it allows for continuous war on a scale that we once didn't have. And so then she gives this general account of information warfare. She says, look, information warfare includes robotic weapons, which we've talked about, communication management, which we've talked about, and cyber attacks, which we've talked about. She says what all three of these things have in common is that they have to do with information communication technologies deployed with an offensive or defensive purpose to immediately intrude, disrupt, or control the opponent's resources. So information warfare involves these three different things. And in general, what it involves is deploying these sorts of things, deploying information communication technologies for the purpose of intruding, disrupting, or controlling the opponent's resources.